Fucker. Damn it. Welcome to the second try of this stupid live stream. My camera froze up the last time. No green blob. It didn't show up.
Released a huge amount of methane and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The planet's temperature went up by at least 2 to 3 degrees Celsius and melted frozen methane in the ocean, releasing it into the atmosphere. A greenhouse gas, methane, raised temperatures by another 5 degrees Celsius. All water on the planet evaporated and land dried up. The same happened in the oasis where the dinosaur ancestors lived. The greenery dried up, and most animals died. Again, surviving reptiles had to look for another place. They kept moving, but there was only a barren desert. Poisonous acid rains fell from heavy clouds. It was difficult to breathe because of particles of lava, gases, and ash in the atmosphere. There was no chance of surviving in such a hell. It is a short description of the biggest extinction in the history of the Earth. It is called the Permian-Triassic extinction, or colloquially as the Great Dying. It wiped out 90 to 95% of water species and at least 70% of land species. Fortunately, some creatures survived. including cynodonts because they hid in the burrows. The dinosaur ancestors, thecodonts and echosaurs, survived too. Soon they would enter a new Mesozoic era and bring the famous dinosaurs to domination, while cynodonts, the predecessors of mammals, would have to adjust and wait for their turn. The planet took about 30 million years to recover from the Great Dying. Animals had to change and adjust to new conditions, and it took a long time. As you know, evolutionary changes take millions of years. It took nature over 30 million years to recover from the largest biospheric catastrophe on the planet, called the Great Permian Triassic Extinction. When life began to develop again, completely different animals started to prevail, who ruled the planet for the next 160 million years. They lent their name to an entire era in the development of our planet. They started their final journey to the pinnacle of evolution as small creatures with bird tracks. Thanks to their great adaptability, they managed to edge out all big predators. These reptiles appeared in the Mesozoic era, otherwise known as the dinosaur era. Their first remains were found in the Triassic period, that started almost 252 million years ago and lasted 51 million years. In the Triassic period, the Earth was quite different from what it is today. The land was represented by a single supercontinent of Pangaea, surrounded by the waters of the Panthalos mega-ocean. The face of Pangaea was constantly changing. Inland water bodies appeared and disappeared, and mountains formed. It was during this period that the Ural Range was formed. At the start of the Mesozoic era, the planet became warmer. The temperature probably rose due to the large amount of carbon dioxide that formed as a result of numerous volcanic eruptions caused by tectonic plate movement. Calculations prove that 100,000 gigatons of CO2 were emitted into the atmosphere in that period. It's a well-known fact that this gas creates a greenhouse effect. The solar rays enter the Earth's atmosphere and reach the surface as short-frequency waves. The planet heats up and begins to emit longer wavelengths of heat radiation. Some of them must go into space. But greenhouse gases don't let waves of this wavelength slip away, especially CO2. As a result, this makes the planet's temperature rise. During the Triassic period, the snow caps at the poles melted due to global warming. The climate has become less zonal, making it more homogeneous throughout the whole Pangaea. The rainy season lasted only 3 months a year. 9 months of drought followed. Then the water bodies became shallow and evaporated, drying out almost all vegetation. The supercontinent was covered mostly by barren deserts. It was very difficult for life to recover after the mass extinction under such conditions. Life continued to evolve mainly on the banks of water bodies and nearby. The plants in these green oases have changed a lot. Droughts have completely destroyed tree-like club moss and many spore fern species. The coniferous trees of the Permian period also disappeared and were quickly replaced by new plant species that were more adapted to dry habitats. Thuja and Araucaria emerged and have survived to this day. Some conifers of that time were herbs without hardwood stems. This allowed the plants to recover faster with the onset of the rainy season. Also, cicadas, ginkgo, and other gymnosperms, similar to modern palm trees, began to spread throughout the supercontinent. However, seed ferns continued to dominate. Many insects flew and crawled among these plants. Crickets, beetles, exotic cockroaches with large furry paws preferred to suck plant sap or feed on pollen. But predatory insect larvae often devoured their own kind. For example, gluttonous baby snout beetles waited for prey in cicada cones. Dragonflies were flying over water bodies catching insects. And 40-centimeter mesotitinids with serrated sickle-shaped paws have gone as far as hunting small amphibians. Sharks and bony fish were fighting for prey in the open sea. Over time, they developed jaws that could easily crush crab shells and seashells. But ray-finned fish wasn't lagging behind. Like the modern type, these predators were over 1 meter long. The newly emerged aquatic reptiles called nothosaurs were the largest hunters of the Triassic seas. Similar to giant dinosaurs, nothosaurs fished with their sharp teeth. They swam very fast and could catch up with any prey. The number of amphibians that once dominated other animals on land continued to decline, even though some species were still quite numerous. Labyrinthodonts lived in swamps, lakes, and rivers across all continents. They resembled both frogs and crocodiles, and had horizontal hips and shoulders. Their length ranged from half a meter, 1.64 feet, to 5 meters, 16.4 feet. Labyrinthodonts were carnivores who preyed on their relatives and small fish using ambush tactics. These gray-green animals blended perfectly with the environment, waiting for hours with their mouths wide open. Their jaws would slam shut whenever someone came close enough for them to reach, and crush the prey with the formidable teeth.
My name is Velma Dinkley. This is my story told my way. And it starts with a murder.
Labyrinthodonts defended themselves from enemies with the firm shell bone plates covering their entire bodies. As in the Permian period, numerous reptiles dominated the planet. However, they changed a lot during the Triassic period. The most advanced forms of reptiles were affected by the Great Extinction. The distant ancestors of mammals, called cynodonts, were among those animals. These small creatures weren't bigger than a weasel, or more rarely, a large dog. They literally had to survive under the feet of large predators. But cynodonts knew how to dig deep burrows and often lived in pairs, caring for their young. It is hypothesized that some of them had already fed milk to their offspring. Some of these animals might have been marsupials and carried their young on them. Moreover, furry, warm-blooded cynodonts didn't need to warm up in the morning. They could easily hunt at night when large predators were asleep. Having adapted to the new conditions, these reptiles spread across the whole planet. And the super predators were mostly represented by crocodiles, or rather their 8-meter crocodilomorph ancestors. These reptiles' huge teeth, ferocity, and strength terrified the animals of the Triassic world. One particular species of crocodilomorphs was given a no less terrifying name, the Carolina butcher, or Carnifex carolonensis. Visually, this 3-meter predator resembled a large crocodile. However, it preferred to live on land rather than in water, and could quickly run on its hind legs. The ancestors of modern crocodiles had extremely sharp teeth that could bite through thick reptilian shells. Finally, the first dinosaurs emerged in the middle of the Triassic period. Paleontologists find their bones all over the world, predominantly in modern Argentina. At first, these reptiles weren't giants, but they grew larger over time. But what helped dinosaurs to survive in the world of predators of the Triassic and evolve so quickly? First of all, many of them were bipedal. Interestingly, the reptiles stepped on their toes, just like birds, and not on their heels like us. This is why the traces of these small animals resemble parent tracks. Dinosaurs' legs were under their abdomen, as opposed to on either side of the body like in crocodiles, for example. Because of this, these reptiles could quickly catch up with the prey or run away from the predator. In addition, dinosaurs were inertial homeotherms, meaning that their body warmed up a lot during the day, but it didn't cool down during the night thanks to their fast metabolism. And some species have really become warm-blooded. This feature allowed them to remain active around the clock. Thus, the reptiles got a head start in obtaining food. It has also been found that dinosaurs had sedentary breathing. This process occurred due to air sacs, which were special lung growths. Dinosaurs received oxygen from the atmosphere during inhalation, and from oxygen bags during exhalation. Such a respiratory system turned out to be indispensable in the oxygen-poor Triassic period. Initially, the concentration of O2 in the atmosphere was 10 to 15%. At the end of the Triassic, the figure jumped to about 19%, but this still wasn't enough. To put this into perspective, oxygen makes up just over 21% of the current atmosphere. And in the Carboniferous period, it rose to 35%. It's also important that dinosaur skin is scaly and water repellent. It protected animals from both moisture loss and predators. Finally, dinosaur eggs were thick-shelled. Due to this, the cub's survival rate was rather high compared to other reptiles. However, the first reptiles still had an insane amount of time in the harsh climate of the Triassic. They were constantly fighting to the death for their place in the sun. Perhaps this is how dinosaurs survived alongside other Triassic inhabitants in what is now South Carolina. 200 million years ago, the rainy season could last 9 months, and small lakes turned into vast water bodies. Naturally, water always attracts a lot of animals that could drink and hunt nearby. In ancient times, huge 5-meter crocodilomorphs also loved to splash in the ponds looking for a suitable lunch. They were probably well fed, as there was plenty of fish and small reptiles to snack on during the rainy season. Carnivorous dinosaurs, such as the huge Gojirasaurus, could also come to the drinking place. The largest of them in the Triassic were over 5 meters, 16.4 feet long, and weighed 150 kilograms. These reptiles probably hunted numerous small animals near water bodies. Herds of herbivorous dinosaurs could graze in forests covered with lush greenery near rivers and lakes. In millions of years, their descendants, sauropods, will grow 10-meter necks and huge bodies weighing dozens of tons. So far, the size of these animals, for example, the Briosauridae, were much more modest. But some of them in the Triassic were already 10 meters, 33 feet long. Such reptiles still had elongated legs, and not column-shaped as later. But they were able to rise on their hind limbs in order to reach the young leaves on the treetops. And they already had a steady barrel-shaped body. So, is your stuff out there? Maybe your detergent. Only Cascade uses Blob as a built-in pre-rinse system. It rehydrates dried off food, rinse it off, and breaks it down. Do the pre-rinse for you. Cascade got it. Spray, load, done. Small reptiles could also live among the forest trees. Many of them were bipedal during the Triassic period. For instance, Eoraptorians. They were usually no longer than 1 meter and weighed 10 kilograms. These nimble predators successfully hunted small reptiles and amphibians, grabbing insects on the fly. They also looked for and crushed the eggs of other dinosaurs with their sharp teeth. In addition, small predators often hunted in packs, so they could well have attacked the baby of the huge dinosaurs. Interestingly, many of them were omnivores and didn't mind eating some plants for dessert. Meanwhile, cynodonts, the ancestors of future mammals, probably stayed in burrows during the day, guarding their offspring. Some of their species, such as Synognathus, were already quite large. These animals were the size of a large dog, had wide jaws and sharp teeth, They could clearly stand up for themselves. However, they probably preferred to go hunting only after dark to avoid huge predators. Cynognates were warm-blooded, so the night cold wasn't much of a problem. In a nutshell, all the animals were well-fed and satisfied during the rainy season. But water bodies would become shallow during the rainy season, leaving only a few fish alive. There would be fewer amphibians near shores, too. Voracious crocodilomorphs would find it difficult to feed themselves under such conditions. However, predators could always count on some careless young reptile to stray away from a flock of small dinosaurs at the drinking place. A strong, big-mouthed crocodilomorph armed with sharp teeth had every chance of getting it for dinner. Large dinosaurs may also consider smaller dinosaurs as prey. It can be assumed that the small dinosaurs like the Eoraptors didn't starve themselves. After all, a lot of amphibians and insects could be found near the water bodies. Herds of huge herbivorous dinosaurs must have had a particularly difficult time. Tree-like plants would dry up completely during the rainless season. The lack of resources may have forced giants like Rheocosaurs to migrate in search of remaining forests. Moreover, they had a great chance to successfully make long transitions. Spikes and plates on animal skin protected their body from moisture loss. Perhaps when the drought became completely unbearable, large predators began to hunt each other. If a crocodilomorph and a large predatory dinosaur had a fight, the latter would surely win. According to paleontologists, ancient reptiles were more mobile than crocodilomorphs. In addition, they often ate carrion in the forests. Smaller predators would probably get some leftovers after the bloody feasts of those at the top of the food chain. With the onset of the rainy season, the animals that survived the drought, predominantly dinosaurs, returned to normal life near lakes and rivers. They went about their business foraging and laying eggs. This is how the dinosaurs became stronger on the planet, but it was most likely another global catastrophe that made them thrive. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction occurred 169 million years ago. Scientists don't have a single hypothesis on what caused it. Perhaps volcanoes contributed to dinosaurs thriving. The breakup of the Pangea supercontinent led to intense volcanic eruptions. Numerous eruptions have caused huge amounts of carbon dioxide to be dumped into the atmosphere. It created a greenhouse effect and a dramatic climate change. And such changes are usually followed by ecosystem collapse. However, the cause of extinction may not have been connected to a global catastrophe. Some scientists believe it could be caused by cooling on the planet in the late Triassic. Polar and high mountain ice caps appeared that cooled the Earth even more. This led to the Ice Age and significant freezing of the ocean. Such a sharp change in climate caused another global extinction. It's also believed that a huge asteroid collided with our planet, leading to a disaster. Non-power wash dish spray for everyday dishes, and a whole lot more. However, the crater from the impact hasn't been found. However, over millions of years, it could have been wiped out by the ocean. In any case, about 50% of land animals died at the end of the Triassic. Many ecological niches became free after that. Dinosaurs were able to take them, further reinforcing their positions in the evolutionary landscape of the Earth. The Jurassic period, or the Jura, is probably the most interesting era. After watching the famous movie, The Jurassic Park, an average person might think that the Earth was populated only by dinosaurs like T-Rex. In fact, it wasn't quite like that, even though the Jurassic period is also known as the Age of Reptiles. Let's Let's start with the statement that the Jurassic period, the second in the Mesozoic era, is long and complex. It began 201 million years ago and lasted about 56 million years. It got its name because the fossils were first discovered and explored in the Jura Mountains in Switzerland and France, hence the name of the period. This era is divided into three stages. The first, which lasted from 201.3 to 174.1 million years ago, is called the Lower Jurassic. At that time, life was recovering from the Triassic-Jurassic extinction that caused about half of all animal species on the planet to disappear. However, the hot and humid climate of the Jura helped life to quickly bounce back. Warm oceans and seas abounded with ammonoidea, belemnitidia, fish, and reptiles. On land, reptiles, including dinosaurs, quickly filled the ecological niches freed by the previous extinction. In the process of evolution, some reptiles got wings and flew into the sky. The beginning of the Jurassic period launched the high time for reptiles. Hundreds of dinosaur species appeared on the planet. They settled on all continents, including Antarctica. Some reached incredible sizes and proportions. Some, of course, developed formidable shapes, sometimes bizarre and scary. What are the mysteries of the prehistoric reptiles that lived on Earth 200 million years ago? At that time, the continents of the Earth were under the process of formation. The single supercontinent of Pangaea began to split into separate continental blocks. Shallow seas filled the gaps. The continents began to take modern shape. Bays deepened and separated Africa and Australia. The gulf between Africa and America became deeper too. In Eurasia, the German, Anglo-Paris, and Western Siberian depressions were formed. The Arctic Sea flooded the northern coast of Laurasia. In North America, the Rocky Mountains and the Andes were under formation. Many volcanic eruptions accompanied splitting of tectonic plates and reshaping of continents. Volcanic eruptions released huge amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and intensified the greenhouse effect. The climate of the Jurassic period was generally warmer than the current one by about 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, and the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere was 4 times higher. The rains were more frequent and heavy compared to the Triassic. Most of the Earth had humid tropical and subtropical climate. Huge areas were covered with lush vegetation, primarily jungles and forests. They consisted mainly of seed ferns and non-flowering woody plants. Let us remind you that plants, unlike animals, were lucky. There is no clear evidence of the flora extinction at the turn of the Triassic and Jura. Thanks to the heat and high humidity, the trees in the forest grew tall and big. Cicadas are widespread in the tropics and subtropics. The era of the heyday began. During the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, the cicadas reached the peak of diversity.